Donk Nation, Jackson, Jennets, greetings and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you some nonsensical Steelers talk. Not by myself, though. Gingy, back in the house. How's it going?
What up, Gingy in the house? I'm getting football fever, baby. Steelers camps 2 weeks away. I don't know, Donkey, you getting excited?
Always excited. It's time that people are making those preseason predictions, Gingy. And a fun one I came across was there's a boy on the Steelers, young gun, getting named a dark horse MVP candidate. Kenny Pickett on that list. What's that make you think, Gingy?
That's the one. Is he going to take the Trevor Lawrence type of leap? Better? Worse? I hope it's that type. I mean, he's poised to
Me
do it,
too.
Donkey. They've been putting pieces on that offense all off season. I feel that that's where that team is going to ride this year, and that is very unusual for a Steelers team for me, but I think if they're going to win, it's going to be on the offensive side of the ball. So those folks are going to have to lean into it.
I agree with you. A lot of people seem to forget last year's team was a 9-7 football team, Gingy, and that's a team that mostly lost without TJ Watt. TJ Watt stays healthy. That defense can be a wrecker. You have Kenny Pickett going into his second year, not worrying about coordinator change. Same general system here, should know it better. You add a receiver like Allen Robinson, George Pickens going into his second year. Firemouth now getting more reps in with Pickett. You talk improving that offensive line with a big draft pick of Jones and a huge free agent signing in Simualu. This is a team that offensively looks improved. And I didn't even mention bringing in a veteran guy like Allen Robinson to help with that wide receiver room, a big tight end in Washington to add in there. Warren going into a new year. Najee Harris hopefully being healthy, no injuries to start the season. You're looking at a team that last year, towards the end, and I know it was against weaker opponents, the offense started clicking, but improved that offense by leaps and bounds, in my opinion, in the offseason, Gingy. So why not have put Kenny Pickett on that list?
Absolutely. Dual threat in the backfield, what I'm hoping, right? We got Washington, basically offensive lineman number 6 that can also run and catch.
That dude
Okay.
is huge.
Okay. Yeah, seriously. So I'd like to see, and I really think that that's always really been what the issue with the offense was, is that there hasn't been real serious pressure of a dual threat placed on, a lot of the defenses that we're playing. The
That's
playbook being
100% true.
limited, we're going to have to see this year about whether the offensive coordinator, it's on the tip of my tongue, what we
Canada.
got, yeah, whether that is real or not, right? Like, because everybody was JV. Pretty sure we talked about JV on this show, right,
I'm
Donkey?
going to say it again, and I'm a little sad we didn't bring in an offensive pass game coordinator. Canada's passing game leaves something to be desired, but that dude can draw up a good running play. I'll give him that.
Well, that's what they need, I feel. I think we got playmakers. Talking about, again, I think we talked about this last season, though. A lot of hopeful guys stepping up. Some of those guys that we were hoping were going to step up did last season, and some of them clearly didn't. And they ended up on the Chicago Bears, and they don't seem to be stepping up there either. But that's a different story.
He got a little too prima donna there in the Mapletron, that's for sure. You also got to see maybe Calvin Austin proves a big spark in this offense. But I think the reason that Kenny Pickett got named to a dark horse to this list is obviously the Steelers were a good team last year. You expect him to take that second year leap. But the thing that he showcased last year, Gingy, while it might not have been the stats, is that knacked for a fourth quarter comeback win. And what wins you MVPs? Because let's ask Russell Wilson why he won one over Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers had a purely better season than Russell Wilson. What did Russell Wilson do, though, that whole year, Gingy?
What's that, Donkey?
Come back in the fourth quarter. People love those comebacks. People remember those comebacks. They don't remember you throwing 40 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. They remember that 4 times you came back in the fourth quarter from 2 scores. You had another 3 comeback victories in there. And Kenny Pickett last year showed that little fortitude for that comeback victory, and that's why I think he was the name that got put on this list, because there's a lot of names you could have put on this list. You mentioned one earlier that would be a dark horse, Trevor Lawrence. Guys like that are dark horses for the MVP when you consider you have Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. Who else do we want to go in there? Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson. And I haven't even left the AFC yet, Gingy.
Well, once you do, you're pretty much gone anyway. You don't.
No
Is there
Dak,
one other
Kirk
name
Cousins love?
is there one other name to add that's not in the AFC?
Statistically, Kirk Cousins. I mean, look at the numbers that dude's put up over 4 years just in terms of numbers, and you'd have to say his name should be mentioned, right?
Well, Jalen Hurts.
That's a fair one, but Hurts' numbers don't even match with Cousins. Hurts got those big wins, though. You can definitely argue there that there's a huge point to be made. The dual threat guy, Dak Prescott, because, Dallas is always going to be in the talk. How about Derek Carr moving on to a new destination? Do the numbers finally match up with some wins?
I don't know about that. I'm not sure that he's the one. I'm not sure that he's the chosen one, but we'll see.
Some Geno Smith love out there on the West Coast, maybe? How about another quarterback on the West Coast? Do you like any of the guys in San Francisco? Because say what you want, Kyle Shanahan makes MVPs.
So unknown. Well, I'm pretty sure I don't like two of the three guys, and Trey Lance is an unknown. What else you got? Darnold and Purdy?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Arm injury Purdy, too. Can't leave that out there because you never know how that's going to affect things going forward.
Well, there you go. And I don't think Darnold's the guy. I think that's.
Does it get lost on you at all that we are two traditional, prefer to run the ball, control the clock type of guys? I think we both agree on that. We're not the air it out type of guys. Yet we're here having an MVP talk, and we don't mention anything but quarterbacks. That's the way it is now, though, huh?
Quarterback still controls the pace of the game. The type of quarterback that you have on that team really kind of dictates itself to a certain type of offense. And I still like the quarterbacks that are able to control and dictate the pace of the game. P. Mahomes, freaking legendary so far. What is it? Already AFC championships like every year for him? Okay.
Probably cemented Hall of Fame already.
See, so I understand the point, but for me, it's a guy, those big swing, big home run hitter type guys, they remind me of like 3-point shooter college basketball teams. When they swing big and they hit hard and they're unbeatable, but they can have that swing and a miss too. And I feel like a more steady, run-based, dictate the pace of the game, that's a more consistent recipe for victory, in my opinion, in case you have a legend on your squad.
Yeah, unless you have Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't seem to work very well when you gunsling. I mean, let's look through the generational names you want to put out there. Peyton Manning, it didn't work very well. He won one Super Bowl in his career outside of the year in Denver, which if you want to give him credit for that, yeah, I guess he technically was better than Brock Osweiler, but ain't saying much. You look at Aaron Rodgers, you look at Brett Favre, you look at those guys, right? And it never matched up. And then you look at the guys who have the Super Bowls, the multiple Super Bowl guys. You're talking, let's go back, Troy Aikman, right? Steve Young, both of them had running games in there, though. San Francisco, not as much as Dallas, obviously. You go back before that, it's the era of Terry Bradshaw for multiple championships. And just, those, I guess it's been a generational thing that those pure, just air it out guys never seem to win. And say what you want. Even Tom Brady understood that. He tried to have a steady dose of running the ball and controlling the clock. And I will say the one outlier I can think of, maybe you can think of another in this, is Patrick Mahomes. He's just a pure outlier.
Seriously, in terms of field general, running offense, reading defense, throwing dimes, yeah, definitely. No, I understand that. Complete teams, Donkey. That's what you're talking about. It's complete, well-rounded teams with one little spice of special sauce. Those are the type of teams that go far.
So you're not feeling any 2000 Buccaneers type teams in there? No, wow, who the hell's this guy at quarterback? Just everything else is great. You don't think there's a chance for a team like that?
I don't think that team survives in the modern NFL. They had their place. They had their place, Donkey, where a defense could truly dominate a game and really have a literal shot at holding a team to 13 points a game all season. But we've got 18 games. We've got Patrick Mahomes. We've got Joey Burrow with weapons everywhere. I don't know if a team built like that does it.
A rule book designed to let you do it as well. And dear Tennessee Titans fans, I'm sorry, Gingy just absolutely chopped your legs out from under you because you were the team that I was building towards, and Gingy just absolutely smacked you down.
I mean, so we saw that. That's kind of like an Alex Smith-led Chiefs team, right? That's the best that we look at the Chiefs before P. Mahomes, and that didn't do it.
Fair. I think your best look at it, Gingy, would be the San Francisco Giants of last year.
Oof.
How about we name a team that got to, should have got to the big dance, right?
Well,
and they did it without quarterback play. They did it because that defense was stellar. And let's be honest here, you can't match up with Deebo Samuel. That's what their offense was good luck stopping Deebo the whole year. That was their whole offense.
Well, they had a well-rounded team with a dash of special sauce, and that is the Deebo. Like I said, those are the teams that are successful. They needed a hair bit more luck in the injury department that they didn't get. Otherwise, a healthy Niners team absolutely smokes a Philadelphia Eagles team. Yeah,
they win the Super Bowl. No doubt about it here. And Gingy, is a dash of special sauce really the quarterback, or is it the tight end? Because all the teams we're mentioning here have elite tight end play.
No, it could be something.
I've been hearing Pat Freiermuth strongly put in the top 10 of every list. Is it time for elite tight end play in Pittsburgh?
It could be a third down consistent tight end blanket. It could be on the opposite side of the ball, a third down defensive lineman get in the face of the quarterback. It could be a everywhere but where you think he is type of free safety. It could be even, heck, smart, unpredictable, reliable coaching. Any of those things can be your dash of special sauce, but you got to have a well-rounded team accented by one of those things, I think.
Gingy, that brings me to the last talking point I really have before I get into some fun stuff I want to do. Talking of tight ends, elite tight ends, George Kittle's ready for week 1. He's ready for TJ Watt. You read about that?
I did see that. What's that all about? I don't know how ready he thinks he is, but why would you give a Watt anything to look at? How far is that game away? 8 weeks? 10 weeks?
Probably. Yeah.
Why would you give it? Okay, you're not thinking ahead if you tell him that the Sunday before the game starts, right? You're still going to get something excessive, but
George Kittle's that dude who says it and then does it though, Gingy. He's done it in the past. This isn't like some no-name saying, "I'm ready for TJ Watt." This is arguably the best tight end of this generation saying it.
Yeah, I agree with you, but we'll see.
Anyway, it's giving a little heat to a Steelers-Niners matchup that's a while away. It's football talk, so I'm all for it. It's entertaining. It's got stuff going. Gingy, I've done some lists since you've been gone. I kind of want to get a Gingy spice on these lists as well. That sounds terrible, and no, we are not the Spice Girls.
Yeah,
anyway,
I'll give you some
Gingy,
spice,
anything you want to talk about before we get into that?
No. Let's hear about these lists, man.
All right, so Gingy, the first list I did when you went away was I did my top 5 Steelers from the new millennia, and this only included their career during the new millennia, so since 2000. You got some names that really stick out for you as the players to be in there. I know you don't have anything prepped, but just some names that pop right into your head when you hear new millennia Steelers.
Ooh. When was Cam Hayward drafted?
All new millennia, because remember, he's younger than Ben.
Yeah, okay. So that is a real game changer, I think. Been a real solid, consistent anchor on that defense for a long time. Really took the reins up front after we had some very serious, fantastic linemen go. Aaron Smith.
Almost all his career played in the new millennia.
I was gonna say no. I was gonna ask you that. I didn't think he was a new millennia player, but
2000.
definitely played in the new millennia, right? Oh yes,
yes.
yes.
Most of his career, because I actually remember most of his playing career, and I don't really remember the pre 2000s. Because remember, wasn't Cordell Stewart like a 99 draft pick?
Like 97,
Six,
98,
96
maybe.
to 99, somewhere in that age.
Yeah, because he played a couple AFC championships at the end of the 90s there.
Yeah. So pretty much anyone since then is your Steelers. I mean, Cam Hayward's really a block in there. Any other names that come to mind? I know there's one that has to.
Well, there's a few that just personally strike me. I'll tell you what, as a young man going to camp, I don't know what year did Joey Porter senior come about?
He was definitely 90s, yeah. Cuz
played in the new millennia.
Yeah.
In terms of new millennia guys, though, like Steelers that are going to still be remembered throughout time, you got to talk about the Super Bowl guys, right? James Harrison,
for sure.
That really leads that. I mean, think about the era of Steeler linebackers between that little transition period, right? In between like the 90s into that new millennia, right? And James Harrison really, I think, continued to hold that lineage strong.
Yeah. So you go on what? Greg Lloyd, Joey Porter, James Harrison, T.J. Watt, that type of transition.
Yeah,
you leave
Kevin
out guys.
Green.
As I say, you leave out some superstars in there. Kevin Green just going to be remembered for that. Not really a long time as a Steeler, though. You also have guys like Lamar Woodley, who had a great 4 or 5 years run. Clark Hagans, who was just a guy who was always around and always producing. Just, yeah. Outside linebackers, Steelers. Same with middle linebacker Steelers. You talk Lawrence Timmons, James Ferrier, all the way back to Levon Kirkland. I mean, it's just been pass the torch. You give it to Shazier, and then let's not talk about anything after that.
New millennia Steelers in terms of wide receivers for me would be very interesting because you're thinking Santonio Holmes, Plaxico Burress, Antonio Brown for sure. Yeah, a lot of good.
Gingy, do you really skip Hines Ward, or were you intentionally leaving that for the end?
Well, is that new millennia?
Yeah, he played through both Super Bowls into Antonio Brown's career.
Okay, yeah,
I think his
definitely
whole career is new millennia.
Okay, definitely Hines Ward then as a legend. So, yeah, absolutely, a lot of new. I mean, the Steelers list of like memorable players though, just scrolls.
I'll give you the list of guys that I remember right now. I don't remember my list exactly, but the guys who pop off the chart to me were, you start on the offense, right? Let's start on the offensive line. You got Hall of Famers like Alan Faneca. You have great players like David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey. You got names like that are going to last a really, really long time, right? You go to the tight end spot. You have Heath Miller, undoubtedly a name you got to talk about. One of the ones that I thought really hard to leave out of my top 5. You go to wide receiver. You have those guys who made the plays like Santonio Holmes, who had a decent career like Plexio, but you have Hines Ward, you have Antonio Brown. Those are the names you got to mention. The Pittsburgh Steeler of the new millennia, Ben Roethlisberger. Undoubtedly the name you have to mention, and the name you have to say is the new millennia Pittsburgh Steelers. Base of the franchise for almost the whole time. Drafted, 2003 going into 4 season? Is that right? Or is it 4 going into 5
I think
season?
so. I think it's
Either
3,
way,
4.
The face of the franchise there. You go to the defensive side, you have to have guys like Cam Hayward, obviously, Aaron Smith out there. Brett Kiesel, can't forget the beard, because my wife would kill me if I ever forgot that. You go to outside linebackers, you got Porter, Woodley, Harrison, without a doubt, one of the leading sackers in AFC North history. I guess the way to remember it, Gingy, is AFC North was formed in 2002, so anyone who played their career as an AFC North Steeler played the new millennia Steelers.
That's a good cut.
You got T.J. Watt in there. You go to linebackers. You got Lawrence Timmons, James Ferrier, some great names playing up the middle. You go to the outside. This is where it gets sketchy. Is there a new millennia cornerback worth mentioning? Ike Taylor, maybe. Depends on your view of him. Brian McFadden, maybe. Again, depends on your view of him. But outside of that, really no one. And then you get to the safeties. Without a doubt, Ryan Clark needs to get mentioned because Troy Polamalu isn't Troy Polamalu without Ryan Clark. It's that simple. So I think you got to mention both of them. And then it's a gap of a bunch of no-name safeties until you get to probably Minkah Fitzpatrick. And that is a pending name, you know?
I really like that rundown. That's a good rundown, Donkey.
You could also go kickers in there. I mean, do you like alcoholics? I mean, Josh or Chris Reed. What the heck was his name? Josh Reed, right?
Yeah,
I
think so.
Just skipping on names there. But yeah,
no, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, there it is.
There it is.
New Millennia Steelers, fun. The next list I did, Gingy, was heartbreaking Steelers losses that you remember. What hits you on that?
Yeah, there's one that comes to mind. I mean, again, it's not. It might not have been the biggest game. I think it was a wild card or a divisional. Watching the unexpected loss to the Tim Tebow Broncos in overtime
list just for you, I believe,
was so very harsh. I mean that. He had no. I don't know. I don't want to revisit it any further, Donkey. That's the one.
Ike Taylor, that is the memory of him that is forever etched in my mind. Not the 37 dropped interceptions, Gingy. That play getting burned by Demaryius Thomas.
Painful. So painful. Tebow had no bit. That was a terrible game.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible. We had that.
I will say
we had that we had that put in the bag at the beginning, I felt. And then what? We squandered it away by just didn't we play prevent for a quarter and a half? Freaking just let them come back.
Probably.
Oh man. Painful.
It was. My list was all made up of playoff games. And I'm going to be honest with you, Gingy. My most heartbreaking Steelers loss is without a doubt a Super Bowl because Super Bowls just hit different. And the Steelers had a chance in it, had multiple chances in it. You get Ben with the ball, end of the game, chance to get it, get it going, and just a pick six. That's what I remember. That loss will always stick with me. There are some other painful ones. Like my probably earliest memory loss was, I think it was a divisional round or championship game round. I had to look back again. But the loss of the Patriots, that was the damn special teams loss. The Troy Bound punt return in the first quarter, a blocked field goal touchdown in the second quarter, where we lose by like 5 points due to frickin' special teams, man. Special teams, Gingy. Danny Smith, bubblegum chewing ass, must have got his playbook from that game.
Yeah, that's no good.
But any other big losses stuck in your head there, Gingy?
Most recently Jacksonville, I believe in 16, the playoffs, where they had no business. We had no business in a shootout with them. Are you serious? In a shootout with Blake Pop and Bortles?
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty painful.
I believe there's a couple defensive touchdowns in there too.
Yeah. There's that business. That game was just, it had no business going the way that it did. Defense let us down.
That one was a heartbreaking loss for me. And Gingy, I don't remember where it made it on my list, but I don't know your view on this one if it was heartbreaking to you. But the playoff loss to the Browns was heartbreaking to me because that's when I knew Ben had no chance at ever getting it done again.
That was okay. Yeah, that was bad. I didn't find it as heartbreaking because I really kind of just wrote them off once I saw Pouncey snap the ball 4 feet over Ben Roethlisberger's head, the first play of the game. I wrote it off.
The game itself wasn't bad, Gingy. To me, why it was heartbreaking was that, to me, is the game that will forever be cemented in my head as the end of Ben Roethlisberger's era Steelers. That's when you knew that team had nothing. That team was done. To me, was that game right there.
Yeah, it's not out of the question. They don't. But the fact of the matter is, the Brownies almost brownied it up and really let him back into that game. That game had no business being a game.
Did.
Had no, I know they're like,
Certainly
oh,
did.
you lost at home. Who are you calling brownies? But you seriously you had like four. What was it? It's a 3-score lead that you almost squandered away. Pretty seriously, that would have been devastating.
Yeah, that's what made the game stick too. Is I almost turned it off, and then they give me a little bit of hope that they're back in it, and then it was just like, oh wait, no, they're not. Yeah, that one was terrible. Now, Gingy, I had one more list I did last week. I talked about my most disappointing draft picks, and this wasn't guys who didn't live up to potential. This was guys who, when they were drafted on draft day, I was stoked because that's a guy I love. That's a prospect I love. And you know I love to look at prospects. I always have. That's the Pirates fan in me because if you're a Pirates fan, you're always looking at the next thing because the current thing is going to be gone in a year. So prospects are always fun. I love draft time. I love undrafted free agents looking for those diamonds in the rough type of guys. So are there any draft picks that were names that you were like, man, this kid is going to make it and this kid's going to be impactful? And then they just kind of turned out to be Dree Archer.
Yeah, immediately one of them comes to mind for me, Donkey. And I might not draft nerd as hard as you do in terms of prospects or whatever. But what I do know is that when you trade up in the first round to acquire somebody, I really expect some long-term consistent production
You
beyond a
expect an
first contract.
undersized you expect an undersized linebacker?
I expect long-term production beyond a rookie contract from a trade up in the first round, and that makes my list obviously numero uno Devin Bush on that one. Very disappointing turnout, Donkey. Really wanted to find that guy like the Devin White, right? The guy who speeds around in the middle and slams the hole, stops the run, disrupts tight ends in the middle.
I hate to say this, but there are certain positions where 4 inches and 30 pounds makes a difference. One of those just happens to be middle linebacker.
It does, but no one is. We're talking about perfect, and we're talking about trade-offs. In the modern NFL, it's not completely unquestionable to consider that could have been a success, given that young man developing a little bit differently.
I agree with you 100%. And my counter to you is going to be he goes to a system where he can play Buck or Mike linebacker. The dude could be Levante David, right? A great borderline Hall of Fame career guy. I mean, Levante David, clearly not a Hall of Famer, but a dude who's been a huge player for over a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a Pittsburgh Steelers middle linebacker. You have to be able to fill the gap because the Pittsburgh Steelers middle linebackers have always been the number one run stopping part of the defense. You go back to James Ferrier, you go to Lawrence Timmons, you go to Vince Williams. Gingy, what did these guys do well?
Yeah, they slammed the hole. They shut down the run.
Exactly. You draft an undersized linebacker, a.k.a. a safety like Devin Bush, and hindsight 2020, I liked the pick when it happened, just like you. Probably, and he's fast. He's going to do it. He's that new era coverage linebacker, right?
That's
but
what
when
I
you
thought.
Look at
Coverage linebacker, Donkey. Sorry
Exactly.
for cutting you off, but getting caught, just seeing the Steelers getting burnt for 2 decades over the middle. I thought Devin Bush was a possible answer for that. Getting burnt by tight ends up the seam, up the hashes. Nope.
No.
And we couldn't stop the run either. So
True.
Great.
And the thing is, and I'm going to say this again, the Steelers don't put their linebackers in positions to succeed. They never have. And the fact is, what needs to be good about a Steelers linebacker and what a Steelers fan is going to judge you off is whether or not you can stop the run. And that was just never Devin Bush. I mean, he had a good 6-game stretch his rookie year. An injury absolutely derails him. Maybe it's different if it goes. But personally, looking back at this, looking at the player Devin Bush was, I mean, it seems like the most likely result. He's just not a guy that fits the Steelers scheme. And say what you want, you can't slam that square peg into the round hole, Gingy, as much as the Steelers wanted to try. They were hoping to get another blessing like Shazier. But remember, Shazier was big enough to plug the hole. Devin Bush never was.
That pretty much sums it up for me. Yep. That's the number one that comes to mind. Well, let me think about it. There's probably... Oh, what was it? There was a Julius Jones.
Julius Jones. You'll have to go on that one.
There's a... I don't know, Donkey. Who do you got? Comes to
The
mind for
names
you?
that come to mind with me are guys like Lima Swede, who, if you watch Texas football the way I did, that dude was every bit the superstar playmaking receiver a team like the Steelers needed. You get a speed guy like Dree Archer right out of Kent State, just never really comes around. How about some of the cornerback picks, third round picks like Curtis Brown that doesn't ever see the field? How about a second round pick in the name of Sinquez Golston, who never sees the field as a defensive back? I mean, these guys are just highly, highly disappointing to me, and they were guys who I thought were going to be at least players, right?
Artie Burns.
Artie Burns never hit that for me because that was an overdraft. The Steelers drafted a second round talent in the first round because all the other cornerbacks were gone. That's why he wasn't really a disappointment to me. And honestly, that rookie year he had, it was actually pretty good. Outside of that, though, yeah, I get you. And again, I'm not going to hold Artie Burns accountable again because the Steelers draft a guy who's never played anything but man-to-man coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
The hell do the Steelers play, Gingy?
Typically zone.
Yeah, like 80% zone coverage. You're drafting a man-to-man corner who struggles in zone to be a zone corner. That, to me, honestly, that might have been the draft where I lost faith in Kevin Colbert, was that year with that Artie Burns draft. Because you can't make a mistake like that. I'm sorry. When there's potential long-term pieces, you can't get scared and then just draft way out of position, which is what happened. You got scared and drafted out of position.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. I don't, because that's that. That one was disappointing. Any of those first round guys for me that don't turn out as well as you'd like them to, that's the most disappointing for me.
That's a fair take. To me, I don't judge the first round guys as guys I have hope for, because very rarely do the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round take a guy that I'm like, yes. There's two exceptions, Gingy, and they're the last 2 years, because I was beating my damn table for Broderick Jones. I loved him as a prospect. I still love him as a prospect. And my dream pick was the Kenny Pickett. Those are probably the two first-round picks that I can say, oh my God, I love the pick. Because I'll be honest with you, Artie Burns, I knew nothing about when he came into the draft. TJ Watt, I was in Applebee's. I'm sitting there, and he gets picked, and I go to my current wife, the girlfriend at the time, and I go, I have to go home and look up this dude because I have no idea who the hell he is. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know who Ryan Shazier was, and he played at Ohio State. Like, man, I'm not going to lie. A lot of times, if you're not in a position I care about and I don't see you mocked to the Steelers as a first-round pick, I don't even bother looking at you because, Gingy, I hate the first round of the draft. I love the diamond in the rough. The underdog story. Everybody loves it. I really love it. Those third rounders and later, those are the guys I know about. Those are the guys I studied because I want to be that guy who tells you that player's a gem and you get it. Because anyone can tell you a first round pick. That's no fun. And I honestly am not disappointed by most Steelers first round picks just because I don't have any clue about them when they're taken.
Fair answer. Fair answer, donkey.
That's why mine was a bunch of third rounders, sixth round. Hell, I think I had a seventh rounder in Gerard Holloman. I don't remember if you know who he was, but I'm sure I talked your ear off about him. Played at Syracuse, was an absolute ball hawk, led the nation in interceptions, comes to the Steelers. I'm stoked. The dude is the softest guy I've ever seen play football when I watched him in the preseason.
Well, if you want me to take a later round guy, donkey, then we might look to the most recent punter.
Leave Fat Punter out of it. I still have hope he turns it around.
Well, I think we might be heading that direction, donkey.
Yeah, we definitely are. We should have kept Corliss Waitman last year, but that's neither here nor there. And poor Fat Punter.
He can very well make this list quite easily within the next 2 years.
Not a fan of drafting a long snapper in the 6th or 7th round and him not making the team. Colin Holba, that's not one for you.
That's disappointing. That is.
Don't ask me why I remember that one at all. But yeah, I remember Colin Holba getting drafted. Gingy, that's about all the list I have. Is there anything you have here? Any nonsensical stuff you want to get into before we call it
Oh
a day?
boy. Oh boy. I don't know. Anything going on around the league? I don't even know. We getting any
There's
big
still like
trades?
an all-star cast of running backs that no one signed.
It is true. There is. There's are the Steelers going to get any of them? I heard a rumor of Hunt to Pittsburgh.
I don't like women beaters on my team. I'll leave it at that.
That's fair. How about got any dream picks out there?
Of
Any
guys the
wild
Steelers could
scenarios?
still land.
It got. I mean, even if they can't land them, like in reality, any thoughts? I had
I
one.
would
Let me
love to
let me
see
give.
Dalvin Cook in black and gold.
Oh boy, that'd be nice.
No offense to Najee, no offense to Jalen Warren, but could you imagine having all three of them in black and gold?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would be a three-headed monster. What if we could? Well, I don't know. What if we could pull a Rams move, sell the future for now? What do you think about 2 first-rounders and an asset for Aaron Donald?
He doesn't fit the Steelers scheme. That's my only
You don't.
problem.
You don't think
He's
that would be
he's an
a
undersized
good
three
answer?
technique.
Still fits a good. Yeah, you're right. You're
He's
right.
one of
I'm
the
just
best
dreaming.
pass rushers in league history. He is a pit boy. There is zero reason. I just don't think it schematically fits. There's just certain players that don't fit a
Still a
system,
big.
and I just
Still a
don't
great
see where
run
he fits.
stuffer. Gets
He's
pressure up the
the
middle.
best defensive lineman I've ever seen. Period. Do I think he'd be good in the Steelers system? Yes. Do I think he'd be game changing in the Steelers system? No. Would he be our best defensive lineman? Instantly. But I don't
Uh,
think he's better than Stephon Tuitt was. And I just don't think 2 first rounders is worth that upgrade.
did you see that there are lists out there where folks are putting Javon Hargrave in the top 5 defensive linemen in the NFL?
Interior, he is. That dude, Jay Boogie is amazing. If you have not seen what he did since he left the Steelers, you need to watch it, Gingy. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We know Jay Boogie is a good player, right? He's a
Mm-hmm.
superstar in a 4-3. That's what Aaron Donald would be. That's the perfect example. Aaron Donald would be Jay Boogie. All right? And I don't think that's worth a first round pick. The talent is immense. The player is great. The system doesn't fit the player. The best thing to happen to Hargrave was the Steelers let him go.
Given the premise that I've set, do you have any shoot for the stars type of dreams?
Yeah, and it's the
Like
guy
that
that we
one.
didn't get in the year we traded up to get Devin Bush. It is Devin White because my God, would the Steelers defense be amazing if we had a middle linebacker who hits like a Mack truck and covers like a cornerback.
Boy, that would be something sweet, wouldn't it?
Yes, it most certainly would. And that dude is that dude. I would. And the thing is, I believe he's in that 5th-year option with Tampa Bay and never signed a long-term deal. And Tampa Bay doesn't look like a team that's really trying overly hard to win right now. Give them a little knock, knock, knock on the door. Give them a little first-round pick in Najee Harris. You sign yourself Leonard Fournette and Davin Cook. And you just go right on ahead and take Devin White home with you.
I'd sign up for that.
Me?
I'd sign off on that. I'd sign off on that.
Armchair GM and me would be in love with that addition.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't know how the Bucks GM would feel about that, but I think I'd sign off on that.
Well, the big question for the Bucks is Devin White going to sign there in a long-term deal? If not, and I don't know, maybe he hasn't, I missed it. If not, do you maximize your asset?
Depends on where your team's headed, really. Are you rebuilding? Or are you gearing
up? Is Baker Mayfield the answer, Gingy?
I don't think so. I mean, he beat us in the playoffs, but who's counting?
Baker Mayfield's counting. I'm sure he absolutely
I
knows
bet
about
he
that.
hit 1-0, baby. That's what he says. 1-0. Oh, God. That's disappointing for sure.
Yeah, but that, Gingy, to me, that is the dream scenario. To me, the dream pickup is a defense. I agree with you. I think the dream pickup's a defensive guy because I think that is where the weak spot is. But to me, it has to be that absolute game-changing linebacker because we've seen it for now, a decade, how weak linebacker play just kills in the NFL. That you have to have those guys who can tackle and cover. And
it sure would be
just
nice
comes down
to
to that.
have a. It sure would be nice to have a reliable shutdown corner too, like a real nice one. I know it's really hard to pay them because it's really hard to find one that's good for more than 2 years at a time. But it'd be nice to have like a franchise corner.
No love for old man Pat Peterson, Gingy? No love for Joey Porter Jr., Corey Trice Jr. No love. You don't think any of those have the chance?
Love and faith are different things.
This is probably the strongest I felt about a Steelers cornerback group in Jesus. When was the time that we had Ike Taylor, Brian McFadden, and Willie Gay? Because that's probably the last time that I had as much faith as I do today in corners.
Oh boy. Well, you better buckle up then, donkey, because whenever Patrick Peterson is covering Jamar Chase in 1-on-1, you'll see.
If that ever happens, I am kicking someone, and they're getting kicked hard. First off, I don't know if there's a cornerback in the league outside of maybe Sauce Gardner. I would leave 1-on-1 with Jamar Chase.
It's probably smart.
That dude is a monster, Dingy. Come on now.
I believe it. I know it. But no, thanks for playing along, donkey. That's what I was wondering. Steelers dream pick. That's all I got.
Perfect. I guess that means it's time for a shout-out session. Gingy, you haven't been here a while. Do you have shout-outs, or is off-season just brrr?
I don't do it for the off-season. I got to hear something to shout at before I start shouting out.
I always love to shout. So I'm going to go ahead and give a shout-out to a former number one pick for the Pittsburgh Pirates, as he's going to get his Major League debut on Monday, and that is Quinn Priester. Pitcher's going to get his first start at home at PNC against the Cleveland Guardians. Almost said the wrong name there, but I got to remember, got to be politically correct. Don't call these teams by their old name, Donkey. Time to let you know, I am the Viking Donkey. It's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger is the YouTube channel where you get to find all this fun, nonsensical content. Gingy, let them know where they can find you.
Mutant Gingy hanging out, playing games, nonsensically, talking Steelers. Let's get fired up. Wave them if you got them, folks. Here we go.